Welcome to Mickey, Marvel, and More, Disney news, commentary, and opinion. From theme parks to Thanos and from Skywalker to Skyliner, my family and I will discuss it all. So let's go!
Please stand clear of the doors. Por favor, manténganse alejado de las puertas.
Hello, Mark here, and welcome to another episode of Mickey, Marvel, and More. Thanks so much for being here with us. Whether you're a first time or a long time, we appreciate your new or continued support. This little podcast is definitely a labor of love, but we really enjoy doing it, and we hope that you guys enjoy it too. Believe it or not, it's been 6 years since the MCU ended the Infinity Saga with Avengers Endgame. And in the time since then, the MCU has been rather all over the place in terms of quality and content. For every Spider-Man No Way Home, we got an Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. And for every WandaVision, we got a She-Hulk Attorney at Law. While my family and I have enjoyed almost everything on some level, I definitely understand that a lot of casual fans and critics alike have been more than disappointed in Marvel's offerings lately. But it seemed like Marvel hit a bit of a turning point with their only film last year, Deadpool and Wolverine. It felt like the MCU just received a chimichanga-sized shot in the arm. Now, that brings us to their first big screen offering since Deadpool, Captain America: Brave New World. And that's what Zach and I are going to look at today in the family chat. We're going to sit down around the virtual table and present our very first Mickey, Marvel, and More movie review. While we may not review all movies all the time, we felt this one was kind of important, as it sort of hits the reset button and sets the tone for the MCU going forward. But before we get to that, how about a little news from in and around the Disneyverse?
Another cool part of My Magic Plus is FastPass Plus. It's great because you can reserve access to select attractions and shows in advance when you use FastPass Plus.
Walt Disney World just announced a major change to a couple of big-ticket rides in their theme parks. Tiana's Bayou Adventure and Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind will no longer have virtual queues. For those of you that don't know, rides with virtual queues required you to use the My Disney Experience app and log in at 7 a.m. and join a virtual queue for an attraction later on that day. You'd be assigned a number and you would receive a notification when that number was called. If you didn't get a virtual spot at 7 a.m., you had a second chance at 1 p.m. as long as you were in the park where the attraction was. So basically, you had 2 chances a day to, quote, win a spot in line without having to stand in it. Most of these attractions also give you the opportunity to purchase an individual lightning lane, which would also provide you with a return time. But sometimes these can be as expensive as $25 to $30 a head. So virtual queues are much more attractive and free. Disney started using the virtual queue system all the way back in 2017 with the opening of Star Wars Galaxy's Edge for use on the ride Rise of the Resistance. And all of the big ticket rides since then have opened up with virtual queues and individual lightning lanes. But for the first time since 2017, there are no virtual queues available anywhere in Walt Disney World. The first few days after this change was made, Tiana, and Guardians in particular, had really long standby lines. A couple of those days, Cosmic Rewind had wait times of around 180 minutes, with lines extending way past the entrance of the building. Tiana wasn't quite as bad, with wait times of around 70 to 90 minutes. Well, since those first few days, both attractions have settled into a more normal wait time of around 60 to 70 minutes apiece. So if you're planning on visiting Walt Disney World anytime soon, you need to take this into consideration while making your park attendance plans. Basically, if you don't want to stand in line, you're gonna have to shell out some cash.
No, I am your father.
Have you ever wanted to own a piece of Star Wars history? I'm not talking about some hard-to-find collectible. I'm talking about a rare, one-of-a-kind prop from one of the films. Well, if so, you're in luck, because the Entertainment Memorabilia Live Auction in Los Angeles is going to be taking place from March 26th through the 28th, and during this auction, they're going to have some super rare, one-of-a-kind Star Wars props up for bidding. Obtaining a cool Star Wars prop like this is never easy or cheap. But what makes this auction so rare is that both of these items are from the very first film from 1977, way back before Star Wars was ever called Star Wars A New Hope. Props from the original trilogy are really hard to come by, mainly because a common practice back in the day was after a film was wrapped, everything was destroyed and simply just thrown away. That's why there are always differences in the blasters and lightsabers and other various props the actors used throughout the original trilogy, because they had to build them from scratch for every film. And the rarest Star Wars props always come from the original film because, at least in the last two films, Lucas had a little more control and saved some of the items. Back in 1976-77, it would not be uncommon for people to go dumpster diving behind the Elstree Studios in London and find a piece of the Death Star or a disposed lightsaber. The first item up for bid in this auction will be the Battle of Yavin medal that was given to Luke during the ceremony at the end of the very first film. This is the first time that one of these medals has come up for auction because they only made two of them, one for Luke and one for Han, and sadly, none for Chewbacca. But that's a debate for another day. And I've got to tell you, even though I was only 7 years old, I thought it was really weird that they had time to have a celebration ceremony. I mean, come on, they just destroyed the Death Star, and the Empire now knows exactly where their secret hidden base is, and they needed to be getting out of Dodge. But, I digress. It's estimated that this medal is going to go for between $300,000 and $600,000. That is a lot of Republic credits. Believe it or not, the other item up for auction is even more rare. It's Chewbacca's bowcaster. It's actually being called one of the rarest Star Wars hero props in existence because they only made one, and for whatever reason, it survived destruction after each film, so it was used in Star Wars, Empire, and Return of the Jedi. Chewie's bowcaster will be going for sale with an estimated value of somewhere between $250,000 and $500,000. So if you have some expendable credits, check out the Entertainment Memorabilia Auction live in Los Angeles on March 26th through March 28th. And remember what I always say, it's always easier to ask for forgiveness than it is for permission.
Seabase outlet to surface control. All hydrolators pressurized. Prepare for boarding.
10-4 Seabase. Hydrolators now boarding for departure to Visitor Center at sublevel 5.
And finally today, our favorite kind of news here at Mickey, Marvel, and More, Disney Animal News. For several weeks now, the manatee tanks at the seas at Epcot have been empty ever since its original residents were moved to a new location. But now, 4 brand new manatees are now calling the Seas with Nemo and Friends home, at least for a little while. 2 of them are in the display tanks and 2 of them are receiving care backstage. The 2 guys on display in the main viewing tank are Cider and Mino. Cider was orphaned back in 2023 and adopted by another mom manatee, who already had a calf of her own. Cider is around 750 pounds now and is 3 to 4 years old. The other calf, Mino, was orphaned in June 2022, and at 470 pounds, he's a skinny boy, and he needs to gain some weight before he can be released back into the wild. He's approximately 2.5 years old. Now, not much is known at this time about the 2 manatees backstage. All we know is they're receiving some of the best care possible, and hopefully they will be able to be re-released into the wild someday. The new changes about animal care at the seas at Epcot were recommended by the Manatee Rehabilitation Partnership and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. The recommendation was that the seas at Epcot be turned into a short-term versus a long-term care facility. The good news is the manatees are back and they're being cared for. The even better news is, after these guys are gone, new manatee friends will be brought in. So the next time you head to Epcot, be sure to head over to the seas and say hi to our new manatee buddies. As always, Mickey, Marvel, and More will keep you informed on all the big and tiny Disney animal news. So stay tuned.
I can do this all day.
Here at Mickey, Marvel, and More, we're dedicated to all things Disney, Marvel, and Star Wars. Basically anything under the Disney umbrella. We're here for that. But we've never actually done a movie review before. We're going to change that today. In the family chat, we're going to sit down around the virtual table and give our review of Captain America: Brave New World. To help us out with that, we're going to bring in Zach from an undisclosed location at our Echo Base studios somewhere in a bunker in Chicago. Welcome, Zach.
Wouldn't you know it? It's a discussion about Marvel. Who else were they going to call?
Yeah, I think it's pretty clear who our go-tos are for these scenarios. Now, to be clear, I'm not sure we're going to do movie reviews all the time, but this particular one seems kind of important. We're going to split this review into two chunks. The first half will be a spoiler-free review of the film. The second half, we're going to go full spoilers and talk about everything. But don't worry, future Mark will come in here to tell you where to fast forward to miss the spoiler part of the review when we get there. Okay, Zach, what were your basic thoughts on Captain America: Brave New World?
I think on a just basic, I enjoyed it. I liked it. I understand where a lot of the criticisms are coming from, but I don't know. I didn't think it was too bad. I didn't think it was as bad as people have been saying it is.
Yeah, I think I agree. I very much enjoyed the film. I think we discussed this before. It's kind of a reset button for Marvel. They've had several films, obviously, and TV shows since Avengers Endgame in 2019. But it feels like, I don't know, it seems like I enjoyed many of them, the shows and the films, but it seemed like, in particular, the movies weren't as interconnected as they used to be. And I feel like we were kind of missing some of that quote unquote Marvel magic. I don't know if that makes any sense or not, but I really felt like this was a chance for them to say, okay, we're not going to use Kang as the big bad. We just sort of cleaned the slate last summer with, Deadpool and Wolverine. We're going to get back to the Avengers storyline proper. I kind of feel like they did that. Would you agree?
Yeah, it's kind of it's a very interesting film for what it means in the greater context of the MCU, because I've seen a lot of people saying that it feels like a step in the right direction for Marvel
Hmm.
from what thing even despite a lot of the negativity out there for the film, people are still saying that they did things better, or they were doing things in a better direction
Hmm.
in this movie. A lot of people have been saying that it felt like the first movie in a long time that is advancing the story of the MCU.
Yeah, I agree.
So I don't know, it's interesting. This is also the last movie to have been filmed when the actor and writer strike happened.
Oh, that's right.
So this one was partially victim due to that. So if you remember, when the actor and writer strike occurred, that was simultaneous with Marvel saying, "Hey, we're going to kind of go through all of our projects and we're going to quote unquote fix things. We're going to get back to what how the MCU used to be in a
Right.
way." So during its production, this movie had a lot of work done on it, midway through production, because there was the break for the strike, and then when they got back, they did a lot of, I don't know, overhauling on the movie itself. So this is the last Marvel product to come out of that era. Anything that comes out after this movie was made in a post actor writer strike world, so theoretically they should be of a higher quality.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, of the characters, keeping this spoiler free still, of the characters that were featured in the trailers, what did you think about them? In particular, let's start with Captain America himself, Anthony Mackie, playing Sam. How do you think he was in this film?
I mean, I thought this was one of his best MCU performances. I thought he did very, very well. It's been a long time since I have seen the Falcon and Winter Soldier Disney Plus show.
Right, that was a while ago.
Um, and I want to say he also did a very good performance in that, but it was just too long ago for me to remember, and I didn't rewatch it before this. But no, I thought he did a very good job in the movie. I thought I don't know, the character, the storyline they gave for him, the character arc they gave him in the film was I thought it was pretty good.
I really enjoyed the way that he plays the character, and I really enjoy the fact that he's not a super soldier. He hasn't had the serum like Bucky and Cap, and they actually address that somewhat in the film, but we're going to keep it spoiler free. But I do enjoy the way he played the character. I thought he did it well. All right, what about the character swap with actors? Because, William Hurt, who had played Thunderbolt Ross, passed away. And so they hired Harrison Ford to come in and take over the role. How do you think he did in this film?
So, while it's, obviously unfortunate, we did not get to see William Hurt's interpretation of the character for this movie, because this is the biggest role we have seen that character in since, 2008's The Incredible Hulk.
Correct.
And I would say that in some ways, the role in this movie was even bigger because the character was given a lot more emotional depth. He had much more of a story arc to his character. He wasn't like a one note villain.
Right. He wasn't. Yeah. He actually had a chance to be a character in this film.
And I don't know, in some ways, it feels like a totally different character. I mean, the point I was going to make here is that, like, I feel like Harrison Ford played the character better in some ways.
Sure.
I haven't seen William Hurt in all that much, but the general consensus I have seen online is a lot of people are saying that they think William Hurt would not have been able to give the character in this particular film the kind of, I don't know, emotional core that Harrison Ford did.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think Harrison Ford did a really good job. Like you said before, the character of General Ross, now elevated to President Ross in this film, never really had a chance to be more than either sort of a one note villain, although he wasn't really a villain, but only just sort of like he was there to set things up and then he would disappear and you wouldn't see him again.
The character had no depth. He would show up, say, "I hate superhumans," and then leave.
That's exactly right. Yeah, so I think that Ford really had a chance to expand and really, I guess, create the character because it's never really been a character before. And I think it was just your standard, well done Harrison Ford role. I mean, I think he executed it well.
For me, that was one of the standout performances of the movie, if
I
not
agree.
the best one.
I agree. I think that he definitely made this part his own without necessarily, doing anything to destroy what had been done before. So, I mean, it's not the first time that Marvel has switched actors for a role. Most notably, they switched the Hulk. I mean, in The Incredible Hulk, he went from Edward Norton to the Hulk that we have now. That was a major switch, but most people hadn't really seen that film, so I guess that wasn't quite as a big of a deal when they switched over to Ruffalo. But I think the other big one was when they switched roadies on us in Iron Man 1 and Iron Man 2 from into Don Cheadle.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's been handled well before, and I think this is another situation where it was handled well. All right, so how do you think this stacks up with the recent Marvel films, like post Endgame?
Yeah, well, to keep from driving ourselves crazy, I would argue we should narrow the scope of this to just Phase 5 as it currently stands.
Fair enough.
So this would include Ant-Man Quantumania. This would include Guardians 3. This would include The Marvels and Deadpool and Wolverine. This would then be the fifth penultimate film of Marvel's Phase 5.
All right, so where does it fall for you?
I mean, I think it was one of the... in thinking about it in my head, I guess it kind of lands exactly in the middle.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was going to say.
I mean, a lot of the reviews that have not been overwhelmingly negative for this movie tend to say good, not great, or like middle of the road, not fantastic, but fine.
I think it's better than fine, but I see the point.
Yeah, like I don't think it was quite as good as Guardians 3. I don't think it was as good as Deadpool and Wolverine. but I think it was better than Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania and better than the Marvels.
I wholeheartedly agree, and I think there was to say it's in the middle. I think there's a pretty big space between the Marvels and the quality of Captain America: Brave New World. I think although it's in the middle, in my mind, there's way more space between them, making it a much better film. And it's
Mhm.
going to be hard to beat the fan service film that was Deadpool and Wolverine because it was everything everybody wanted it to be plus 10.
Yeah, and I know people say, I know this episode is not about Deadpool and Wolverine, but a lot of people have been drawing comparisons because it was the last Marvel film to come out before this one.
I think that's a
Um,
little unfair because it is a completely different film.
well, yeah, exactly. Like it's Deadpool and Wolverine has been getting weird hate recently for some
Yeah,
reason.
that probably has a little bit to
Um,
do with Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively and all that business going on, but we'll leave that out of the story. But I
yeah.
have heard that as well.
Regardless, I thought this was, I mean, kind of what people have been saying. I thought it was good. I
Yep,
didn't think it was one of Marvel's best, but I thought it was a very clear step in the right direction for like how things have been in terms of the general criticisms the MCU has been receiving.
fair enough. So, how does this film stack up against other Captain America movies?
Tonally, I think this one is closest to the Winter Soldier.
I would agree.
It's the most grounded Marvel project we've had in a while.
Oh, for sure.
I don't think it's a spoiler to say it really doesn't deal with the multiverse.
Right. And it's
Um,
it's fully grounded on Earth Prime.
it feels different than some of than like the previous Cap films, but I don't know. That's also a little unfair to say because it was following the story arc for Steve Rogers' Captain America. This is
Right.
a new Captain America. In some respects, I think this is a better Captain America 3 than Civil War was. Civil War was basically, yeah, it was Avengers 2.5.
Right.
And I mean, myself and many others kind of felt that like Captain America didn't truly get a third solo outing.
That's fair. That's fair.
And I feel like this very much is that.
Right.
I mean, if nothing else, you can say that like this completes the Captain America trilogy.
In a way, it kind of does. It sort of brings Chris Evans' Cap to a close and introduces Sam to the world. So
Mhm.
it does sort of fit as a Captain America 3. I would definitely put it, not unlike we did for the Phase 5, I would put it squarely in the middle of the Captain America films. I think I like it better than the original Captain America film. What was it? The First Soldier,
Yeah, just the first Avenger.
the First Avenger. That's right. Yeah, I think we're going to have a theme to this review. It's right in the middle. So we will just say yes or no to this. Is there a post credits, mid credits scene?
There is not a mid credits. There is a post credits. Just one.
All right, just one at the end. So to wrap up our spoiler free review, what is your rating out of 10 for Captain America: Brave New World?
I mean, I was kind of sitting on this because I'm not. I don't know. I'm bad at ranking these movies in particular because I mean I just have a soft spot for these movies and
Oh,
I'm like, oh,
sure.
it's superheroes. I like it.
I know. I'm there with you.
But I don't know. I feel like if I have to be objective, I think it would get like 6.5 out of 10, maybe.
That is exactly where I was going to put it. 6.5 out of 10, but it feels better than a 6.5 if that makes any sense to people that are listening to this.
Yeah, if this were a tier list, I would give it like somewhere in the B.
Yeah, I mean, it is worth for people to go see. Do not listen to the reviews. If you like Marvel films, I think you'll have a good time watching this.
I will also add on to that by saying if you like how the MCU felt before Endgame, this is the closest we've gotten to that in a little while.
That is fair. All right, now Future Mark is going to come in right here and tell us where to fast forward to miss the spoiler review. Future Mark here. If you want to miss all the spoilers, Fast forward to 3705. Now back to the boys. All right. Thank you, future me. I really appreciate your efforts. All right. Let's get down to the nitty gritty. This spoiler filled review. What do we think about the characters that were not featured in the trailers? The ones we can talk about now. Let's
So,
go. What do you want to start with a particular one?
well, I was going to say that the trailers for this movie, as many Marvel movies tend to do, is a little misleading.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, the trailer makes this movie look like it is going to be it's Captain America versus the Red Hulk.
Right.
And like that's going to be the conflict of the movie, when in reality, our main villain for this film is the leader, who we have not seen since 2008's The Incredible Hulk.
Correct. How do you think? What did you think about his portrayal? They originally in the some of the early art that came out from Marvel, he was going to look more like the comic version. He came out in this film and looked more like Emperor Palpatine. Right?
I've seen a lot of people complain about the non-comic accurate design. I don't know. Honestly, I kind of like this design a little more.
It makes him feel more evil in a way.
He looks scarier. It feels like, I don't know, if someone were infected in the brain with gamma radiation, yeah, your head would look like a tumor.
Exactly. I
Like you
agree.
don't just get an elongated forehead. Like you it made him feel a little bit more menacing.
And I think Tim Blake Nelson did a really good job in the part as well. I thought he played a heavy, but it was almost sympathetic heavy.
Yeah, I mean, as many have said with the film, there are issues, and I think that the villain, could have been greater. Like just the villain's role in the story, the motivations, what he did and didn't do, whatever. But in some respects, this is also a little bit what the older MCU used to feel like.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, the villains weren't quite as complex. They were a little mustache twirly. I would say this is better than that.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know. I thought he served the purpose well, and I thought it was great that they picked up on a storyline that was seemingly abandoned for, like they said in the movie, 16 years.
Oh, 100%. 100%. Before we talk about any of the other characters, I want to kind of scoot ahead to the next question I was going to ask because it fully applies now, us talking about Tim Blake Nelson's character. Can people enjoy this film if they haven't seen the Incredible Hulk movie from 2008?
My gut reaction is yes, you can.
Okay.
I as as unfortunate as I found this, they do a lot of exposition in the first act of the movie to remind you everything that happened in the Incredible Hulk from
No,
2008.
I mean, they kind of had to, though, because that film has always, it's been part of the MCU for many, many years now, but I kind of consider it the forgotten MCU movie. It came out 2 months after Iron Man, and there was even an Iron Man post-credit scene in that film.
And the issue with it is none of those characters were ever seen again except for Ross, who
Right.
showed up in a couple things, and then Abomination most recently in She-Hulk.
Where he showed up as a cartoon character version of the character that was much more evil in The Incredible Hulk.
Like totally different character. So it feels like nothing from that movie felt relevant.
I think watching The Incredible Hulk just sort of enhances your viewing of this film.
Oh yeah, because it picks, like I said, picks up on a story thread that was seemingly abandoned, and it feels like there is more weight to Ross's character because you know more of his whole character arc.
Right.
The cameo that we got in the film from Betty Ross.
Yeah, we're getting ready to talk about the other characters, so let's go ahead and do it. Betty Ross.
Yeah,
Liv Tyler.
She makes a cameo in this film reprising the same character she played in The Incredible Hulk. It makes those moments have more depth because you know there is this long-standing connection from the baby days of the MCU.
Correct.
But you don't need it because they do re-explain everything.
Yeah, I think that it really, and that's her character in this film, although she isn't in it for very long, is the part that added the most emotional depth to Thunderbolt Ross. For 100%, that his whole arc in this story was based around his daughter and the fact that she was totally angry at him about what he did to the Hulk in that 2008 film.
Yeah. And while we're talking about it, I've seen a lot of people criticize this movie for, why does this movie have a bunch of Hulk characters and it's a Captain America movie? Like, why isn't why isn't Bruce Banner in this? Honestly, with how the movie played out, I don't think there was another way this movie could have been. I think it would have been weird for Bruce Banner to be there.
I think it would have been weird, and it would have made the Spider-Man 3 problem too many people.
I mean, Sam Wilson, his character has a much stronger connection with Ross at this point in the MCU than Bruce Banner does.
Right.
So it makes sense for those two to be like at odds with one another. It makes sense for, I don't know. After seeing, I was also skeptical of it when I saw this was going to be a Captain America film with only Incredible Hulk characters.
Right.
But after seeing it, no, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I totally agree. So let's talk about one more new character and then we'll start wrapping things up. They introduced a new Falcon in this film, essentially.
Yeah.
I was surprised by that. I wasn't expecting that, wearing Sam's old suit.
Yeah, he has a very small role in the Falcon and Winter Soldier TV show.
Oh, right. He did. Boy, you remembered that. I hadn't remembered that.
No. I didn't remember that. I looked it up ahead of time because I knew this guy was going to be in this movie, and I'm like, I think we've seen him somewhere before.
Right.
But yes, he is. Joaquin Torres is introduced as the MCU's new Falcon,
and I liked him. I liked the character.
I think he had a great dynamic with, I would say, I don't know. We had a couple of trios in this movie with Sam Wilson, Joaquin Torres, and then Ruth, the ex-Black Widow.
Oh, right. I forgot about, her character too.
They had a great trio with the two of them and Isaiah Bradley.
Mm-hmm. Yes, one of the OG Captain Americas.
Yeah, so I thought the new Falcon, he plays off of other people very well. He's going to make a great side character.
I think he will too. We've already talked about in our previous review with the spoiler-free, talking about Harrison Ford as Thunderbolt Ross. Do you think that they handled the Red Hulk well? Did they do the Red Hulk justice?
I will have to admit, I wish we had more Red Hulk in the movie.
Right.
But also from a story perspective, it makes sense, what they did, how they did it.
It was kind of like Jaws, less is more with the shark. I mean, they were building and building and building to this, and everybody knew it was coming. And every time he got a little bit angry, you wondered if this was going to be the moment. But they saved it to the very, very end.
And due to the ending of the film, I'm not sure if we're really going to see Red Hulk again or much at all. I'm not really sure we're ever going to get a Bruce Banner Red Hulk confrontation.
I don't know. I'm pretty sure that Harrison Ford was only signed up for one film, so it would not surprise me that he would disappear.
I mean, and plus they didn't really treat him like a true villain.
Because he was not a true villain. The true villain was Green Emperor Palpatine.
Yeah. Now, I know there have been rumors for years and years and years and years about Marvel doing a World War Hulk film should they ever get the full distribution rights back to the Hulk character. And if that happens, yeah, I'd say we'd probably see Red Hulk again. But at this point in time, I don't know if we're going to see it again.
All right, before we finally wrap it up, let's talk about the post-credit scene quickly. It was a really short scene. A lot of people were underwhelmed by it. What do we think the meaning of that scene is? To set it up, Sam goes back to the raft, or I guess he was still at the raft, where all the bad guys are kept in the ocean. and goes to see Tim Blake Nelson's character, Green Brainiac, the leader. He goes to see the leader, and the leader makes an ominous statement. And I believe the ominous statement was, "They are coming." Was it something like that?
Yeah.
What do we think that means? And do we think there's going to be a payoff for this one?
So, yeah, it was a little lame.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, it was the most basic way they could have said, come see Avengers Doomsday in 1 year.
That's fair. I think that's all we really need to say about that scene.
I mean, it's with the way that scene was filmed, it was very clearly like, it could be Kang, it could be Doom, it could be anyone.
Well, you could tell that they filmed that not knowing what the fate of Jonathan Major's character was going to be, and they were clearly setting it up for, it could be any bad guy, and that's exactly how they left it.
So it's very much teasing the next Avengers film, which, I guess we can say this is the first official tease within a Marvel movie that, like, the next Avengers is coming.
Right.
And we got the classic Captain America will return at the end of the film.
Right, which, of course, we all expected.
Yeah, so post-credit scene really doesn't... It's whatever. Yeah, we know the next Avengers movie is coming.
Right.
And yeah, this guy can see, infinite possibilities. Yeah, he probably knows something is coming, but meh, I thought I'm gonna sound like a crotchety old man here, but I thought it was better when Thanos, picked up the glove and said, "Now it's my turn."
Fair enough. And before we get away, they did introduce adamantium in this film. So the X-Men are coming with their adamantium because, now we have adamantium in the MCU universe and not just in the old X-Men universe. It'll be interesting to see how that pays out going forward with vibranium and adamantium eventually going head to head.
Right.
All right. So Captain America Brave New World is out now. The Thunderbolts will be coming out on May 2nd, 2025. The Fantastic Four, The First Steps, will be coming out on July 25th, 2025. It is going to be a big Marvel movie summer. We will have to reconvene at some point at the end of the summer and discuss how we thought things went.
Yeah, and not to mention, Fantastic Four is officially going to kick off Phase 6 of the MCU.
All right, we'll have to see what happens. Thanks for joining us, Zach.
Of course, happy to be here.
Monkeys. I do not understand.
I do. I understood that reference.
Thanks so much for joining us for another episode of Mickey, Marvel, and More. And a big thank you goes out to Zach for joining us in the family chat from our Echo Base studios in a hidden bunker in Chicago to help give Mickey, Marvel, and More its first ever movie review. I know we are fanboys, but I do think that Captain America Brave New World is worth a watch. But before you run out and watch it, be sure to check out our show notes for all the stories we talked about today, as well as links to all of our socials. While you're there, click the link on our email and share your thoughts, show ideas, or just confirm that we are in fact just crazy fanboys and we are really drinking the Kool-Aid at Mickey, Marvel, and More, all one word, at gmail.com. As always, if you enjoyed this episode, my name is Mark and you've been listening to Mickey, Marvel, and More. If you didn't, you've been listening to There's a Hole in My Bucket by Lee King. You can thank my co-writer Laura for that one. We'll see you next time.